بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the grace of Allah, concluded his Umrah on the 7th year of Hijrah. As we know, this is known to be Umrat al-Qadiyya, and some call it Umrat al-Qada. And this name by itself made a lot of the Muslims misunderstand the situation. So some thought that whenever you are prevented from performing Hajj or Umrah for one reason or the other, then it's compulsory that you come on the following year to perform that pilgrimage or Umrah. And they make as evidence the name of the Umrah that the Prophet ﷺ took, which is Umrat al-Qada. And actually this is wrong. Umrat al-Qada or al-Qadiyya means that this is what they've agreed upon. So it comes from the word taqadu, which means that they've agreed on this the previous year. So this Umrah is called by this name not because it had to be made up by the Prophet ﷺ for something that he missed last year. No. And this means that if you were prevented from making Umrah or Hajj, and you slaughter your hadi because of this prevention, you don't have to make it the following year. On the way back, the Prophet ﷺ married his last and final wife. Her name was Maymunah bint al-Harith al-Hilaliyah. And she was the sister of Lubaba al-Kubra, which was the mother of Abdullah ibn Abbas, the wife. She was the wife of the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. Maymunah also was the sister of Lubaba al-Sughra, and she was the wife of Al-Walid, the father of Khalid ibn Al-Walid, which makes the Prophet ﷺ married to a woman who's the aunt of Abdullah ibn Abbas and Khalid ibn Al-Walid. She was also the half-sister of Salma and Asma, the daughters of Umays. Salma was married to Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. And of course we know Asma bint Umays was married to 3 of the top companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and these were Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, and when he died in the battle of Mu'tah, Abu Bakr married her, as-Siddiq, and when he passed away, Ali ibn Abi Talib married her. She, as we said, the Prophet ﷺ married her in an area called Saraf, and she also died later on the same area, and she was buried in it. By this, we know that the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ were concluded, and he married 11, and 2 of them died in his lifetime. And those were Khadija bint Khuwaylid and Maymunah, he just married her. Zainab bint Khuzaymah. And she was known as the mother of the poor because of the amount of charity she would give. She stayed with the Prophet ﷺ for 2 or 3 years, and then she passed away. We move on to what is known as the Battle of Mu'tah. And the origin of this battle was that the Prophet ﷺ had sent one of his companions, and he was Al-Harith ibn Umayr. He sent him to the ruler and the leader of Busra. And Busra is a region close to Damascus of Syria. And while he was going there, he was intercepted by Shurahbil ibn Amr, who tied him up and chopped his head off. And this was a serious offense, because messengers are not to be killed. And this is known worldwide. Messengers are never killed. They just deliver the message. So the Prophet ﷺ, in the 5th month of the 8th year of Hijrah, and this corresponds to August or September of the year of 926 on the Gregorian calendar, he sent an army of 3,000 men to punish this man and the tribes around him. And the Prophet ﷺ, of course 3,000 men, were considered to be a very big army, and it is one of the biggest armies that Islam had at the time, with the exception of the army that was in the battle of... No, that was before that, when the Prophet ﷺ had them in the battle of Al-Khandaq, where he had all the companions, and they were faced by 10,000 of all the coalition group. So the Prophet ﷺ had 3 leaders for this army. He had Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, his cousin. But before him, he appointed his adopted son, Zayd ibn Haritha, and he told them that your leader is Zayd ibn Haritha. And of course, he was not adopted anymore. He used to be an adopted son, but he was very close to the Prophet ﷺ. And his son Usama was very close to the Prophet ﷺ. So he told them that your leader would be Zayd. And if he's killed, then Ja'far, my cousin, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, takes his place. And if he is killed, then Abdullah ibn Rawaha takes his place. Now this was unprecedented before. The Prophet ﷺ never did anything of this sort before, which meant that he ﷺ had the feeling that something was about to happen, because now they're going to strange lands that they've not been before, and they don't have any means of supplies or reinforcement. It's a long, long way away from the center of Arabia, from Medina. But the Prophet ﷺ sent them. They had to go to avenge his companion, the messenger who was killed. And he told them that go and raid these tribes in the name of Allah. Raid them in the name of Allah. Raid them in the cause of Allah. Whoever disbelieves in Allah, you should fight him. And then he told them, ﷺ, do not deceive, do not betray and break your promises to the non-Muslims. Do not kill a child, nor a woman. Do not kill an elderly. Do not kill a monk in his place of worship, or a priest in his church. Do not bring down any building and demolish it. All of these were the instructions of the Prophet ﷺ to this army, which was the norm. This was usual, which also indicates to us that Islam is not a religion that promotes terror or promotes destruction. So whenever you see something in the media, and this happens often, that Muslims are portrayed as people of destruction and violence, whenever you see this, rest assured that this is un-Islamic. It has no relation to the Quran or to the Sunnah. On the contrary, our religion instructs us not to do these acts. The people went, the 3,000 men, went to their destination. The people of Medina, along with the Prophet ﷺ, went out to the outskirts of Medina to bid them farewell. Once they reached their destination, it was not something they had anticipated. They heard that the Byzantine army was 100,000 troops, alongside another army from the Arab tribes surrounding the area of another 100,000. And this was a great shock to them. No matter how brave you are, no matter how strong you are, if you have an army of 3,000 men standing against 200,000 men, by no chance this would be acceptable. It's almost like 1 to every 70.
Yeah.
This is something, even if they blow on them, they would make this man fly out of the breath. So the companions had to reassess the situation. So they started talking, what should we do? Some of them said that we should send to the Prophet ﷺ for reinforcement, or to ask him what to do. Do you want us to come back?
Yeah.
Because this sounds and seems to be the wisest thing to do.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing yourself in a battle that it's
unfair.
Obvious is unfair. Yeah. There's no way to match this power with that power. Abdullah ibn Rawaha, who was a poet, who was articulate, stood up and said, people, I think that what we came for is what we are trying to escape at the moment. And look at the way he puts it. Why did we come here in the first place? We come here to die in the sight of Allah, in the cause of Allah. And now we're discussing how to escape this? Why should we send a message to the Prophet ﷺ asking for his opinion? This is what we came for, to die for the sake of Allah. So I believe that we should go ahead and fight until we're victorious or we die in the sight of Allah. And this is all what we want. And he said it in a way that everyone in the army, the 3,000 of them, agreed to die in the cause of Allah. What happened is what we inshallah will know after the break, so stay tuned.
Be proactive. Dr. Haitham Al-Haddad teaches us how to take a conscious control over our life, set our goals and work to achieve them in Islam. Take firm steps towards your future. Be positive and be proactive.
Every single Muslim needs to have in order to be an effective person.
So proactivity in Islam, how to serve our religion and how to serve our life and our guides through all of this.
The proactive person is always motivated. The proactive person always have high ambition. The proactive person, he will not lose his time. He will not waste his time. The proactive person is a generous person.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. Now, the armies are about to confront and engage in fierce battles, but it's not logical. And it can be something that is considered to be out of this world. How could 3,000 stand in the face of 200,000 Byzantine soldiers, well equipped, ready to fight, and well trained. This is something beyond our present day imagination. But they were not normal men. And if you claim that one man of them is equal to 1,000, you would not be exaggerating. They went into fighting. And of course, the first one to go into fighting was Zayd ibn Haritha, because he was the leader and he was carrying the flag. It was described that he went into the spears of the people, of the Byzantine army, to the extent that he didn't even fight. He just, drove in. He just rode in, that is. And Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said that I counted, after the battle, 50 wounds in Zayd ibn Haritha's body, all in his front side, nothing in his back. Which meant that he never even turned his back to them.
Yeah.
And he fought until he died bravely.
Which means that he never left anyone to come back to him.
No, it's not, he did not leave anyone. He did, in war, when you fight, you attack. But sometimes, out of strategy, you have to retreat a little bit. And maybe regroup and do something and attack again. Zayd ibn Haritha did not go back, not one single foot. He fought, and definitely he had killed like 10 or 15 or 20 of the Byzantine army, and then he died as a martyr. Along came Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, who took the flag, and he fought bravely until he was overcome by the great number of the army, the enemy army. They chopped off his right hand, so he held it with his left. They chopped his left hand, so he held it with his shoulders, and then they killed him. And the Prophet ﷺ gave us the glad tidings, and gave his children and his wife the glad tidings that Ja'far's arms were substituted by Allah in paradise with wings to fly wherever he wants. And that is why he's known as Ja'far al-Tayyar, the flying Ja'far, or Dhul Janahayn, Ja'far with the two wings. Abdullah ibn Rawaha's turn, of course, as a leader, was next. So he hesitated a little bit, out of human nature, after seeing what was going on. And then he took the flag. One of his cousins gave him something to eat so that he would strengthen himself before battle, and he just took a bite and threw it and said some poetry and marched into the people and fought till the death. Now the three leaders are gone, but the army has to have a leader. So one of the companions came and he took the flag from Abdullah ibn Rawaha after he passed away. His name was Thabit ibn Aqram, and he told the people, elect someone, and just choose someone to lead you. So the Muslims, in the midst of their fighting, told him, you're the leader, you lead. He told them, by Allah, I don't want this, I'm not the man. And also this shows us that a Muslim should be fair and just. It's not a matter of position or influence and power. It's a matter of being fair and knowing that you are in the right place. And this was what called Thabit, may Allah be pleased with him, to refuse this. He said, I'm not the man. Do you want me to take the responsibility of all these Muslims and then I end up with their blood in my hands? I can't do this. So choose another one. So they looked around and they found Khalid ibn al-Walid, may Allah be pleased with him. And as we know, Khalid was an extraordinary leader, and he had his resume was full of battles and fights that he was always victorious in. So, you want to say something?
Yeah, I read a report that it mentioned that Khalid ibn al-Walid, may Allah be pleased with him, he never lost in one battle in his life, even before Islam or after.
Yes, he was a very tactical person. He knew how to fight, and he knew how to put a plan that would work. So immediately after he took charge, he regrouped the Muslims, and they fought for the rest of the day. But it was few hours or few minutes to sunset. So the minute night had fallen, everyone went back to his camp.
Yeah.
Khalid could not retreat, because if they retreated, the enemy army would come and kill them all. Because when you're running, it's easy for them to catch you one by one.
Yeah.
You don't have a strong line of defense. So Khalid came up, with the grace of Allah, with a very genius idea. So he regrouped the army, and he ordered those who were on the left of the army to go to the right, and those who were on the right to go to the left, and those who were in the center to go to the back, and those who were at the back to go to the front. When daybreak came and they wanted to start fighting again, the enemy army was terrorized. They thought that they had reinforcement. These are new people to us. You know, the right and left of the army all had their own flags. So they've seen the flags being changed and swapped. New faces, new soldiers. They're not the one we fought them yesterday. So they thought to themselves that, oops, we have a problem. The Muslims had their reinforcement, and now we're going to fight a new army, and there's definitely more and more of them coming. So they began fighting with lots of fear in their hearts. Of course, the Muslims did their best to fight strongly, and it was reported, as in the Sahih of Bukhari, that Khalid bin al-Walid, may Allah be pleased with him, broke 9 swords. Now, if you've seen the swords that he used to fight with, us normal people would not be able to carry them, let alone to fight with them. Khalid ibn al-Walid, the leader of that army, broke 9 swords. So you can imagine the skulls that he used to hit and split into 2. The bodies. He was an experienced warrior. And this, what happened with him, with his swords. And imagine the remaining 3,000 of the Muslim army. The enemy army was terrified. They thought that even though we have the majority in number, we are outnumbering them, but these are not humans. They fight like lions, and they're not afraid of death. They're all wanting to face the same fate that Abdullah ibn Rawaha, Zayd, Ja'far had met the previous day. And Khalid could sense and feel the fear in their hearts. So he did not retreat, but he went back a little bit. And as he estimated, the enemy army did not want to follow them, because they were afraid that this was an ambush and that there are more reinforcements, and they want to draw them in further to the desert. So they've decided not to follow. Now, imagine fighting the full day and then fighting the following day, such a huge army. This, to some, would sound to be as a defeat to the Muslims. On the contrary, it's considered to be
Victory.
a victory, because, facing such a huge army, and how much do you estimate died from the Muslims in that battle? Approximately
100.
100. That would be acceptable,
Yeah.
compared to only 13 from the Muslims died. And we don't have a count of those who died from the enemy army, but by looking at 9 swords
From one
from
person.
one person, so you would estimate that before breaking a sword, he would have killed 10 at least.
Yeah.
So they had casualties in the hundreds from the Byzantium army, and that what made them happy to call it off and withdraw their army. Now, as the events were taking place, Allah Azza wa Jal revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in Medina the status of what was going on. And we are told that the Prophet ﷺ told his companions once, as the battle was taking place, he told them with tears filling his eyes that Zayd ibn Haritha fought the enemy army until he died. Then Ja'far took the flag and he fought until he died. And then the Prophet ﷺ paused for a while. So the Ansar felt bad because they were afraid that he would say that Abdullah did not take the flag because he was among them. But then he said, the Prophet ﷺ, and then Abdullah ibn Rawaha took the flag until he died. And then a sword of Allah, a man that is known as a sword of Allah,
Sharpened sword.
took it, and he did wonders with them. And this is the nickname of
Khalid ibn
Khalid ibn Walid. He is known to be the
Sharp.
sword of Allah. The enemy army was defeated in our calculations, and I'm afraid that this is all the time we have for today's program. Inshallah, we'll elaborate a little bit further next time we meet. Until then, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mm-hmm.